My goal is that you guys associate great side dishes with feeding the birds. We're gonna make a tomato pie, but let's turn it up a bit and make a tomato, feta, and basil pie. We're gonna do another recipe with these rolled pie crusts that you can get. You can obviously make your own. I will have a link in the description box on how to do that. I've already sprayed my little pie dish here. We're just gonna roll this out onto the pie dish. My oven is actually currently preheating to 400. It should be done any second now. And then we're gonna just cook this just a little bit while we prep some of the other ingredients that are going into this. You can scallop the edges and make this look really pretty if you want to. I'm just laying it here into the pie dish. And we're gonna cover it with foil. Because I don't have any pie weights or anything like that, I've been using this right here, which is just another dish, laying it on top. Obviously this is oven safe and that's gonna kind of hold it down. So that's my makeshift pie weight. This is gonna go into the 400-degree preheated oven for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna prep the rest of the ingredients. Once that's been in there for 5 minutes, we will remove the foil and bake it for another 5 minutes. Then we can start assembling everything. I've got a cutting board and a colander, and I'm actually gonna set the colander in the sink. This recipe actually calls for 3 large tomatoes. We're gonna be using 4 kind of smaller ones because that's what was available. So we're going to go ahead and slice these. All right, I'm not great on the whole measuring the size of slices, so I'll just show you one after I get a slice. How about that? Okay, so it's like a good burger slice. That's what you would want, like a decent size, really good slice. Putting them in the colander, and those are just gonna drain off for a bit while we work on the other ingredients. Also, if you are newer here and you don't know why my kitchen suddenly looks different, we are at my husband's family's, well, mother-in-law, my mother-in-law's beach place. Now you can make these slices thinner if that's something that you prefer. I like mine to be a little thicker. Okay, so these are all in a colander, and we're just gonna let those drain out. Once they're drained, we also will pat them dry just to make sure they're really nice and drained out. We're gonna dice up some garlic, and we're gonna take it over to the stovetop and saute it a bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna use 1 clove of garlic, but you use whatever you would like to use. I wonder if we have a garlic mincer here. Let me check. We do not, so I will be doing this the old-fashioned way. And before I start dicing this up, I'm actually gonna take the foil off of the pie crust that's in the oven and let that stay in there for about 5 more minutes. The entire time that we were here, I only needed 1 clove of garlic, so I didn't wanna go buy one of those things, you know, the minced garlic packet thing, containers. So we're gonna saute this in some olive oil. This is gonna take like 3 minutes at the most, and then we're gonna move on. All right, I did bring some basil from my basil plant at home, and you may wanna use more than what I am using. I just brought what I had. Also, I'm starting to lose light. There's a lot of light in here during the day, but right around 5:30, plus it's been a rainy day. So I'm taking all the leaves off, and we're just gonna do a quick chop of these. You can do a much better job than I am if you would like to, but I'm keeping it really simple. So this is probably only a 1/4 cup. Ideally, you would have a half. It depends on how much you like basil. Ideally, you would have a 1/2 cup, possibly more. All right, so I do have a bowl here. We're gonna take the sauteed garlic, and we're gonna put that into this bowl. It's gonna be our mixing bowl. I am gonna add in the basil. Oh, I also went ahead and drained the tomatoes as best as possible, and then you do wanna pat them off. Even after draining them, you can see how much water is on this paper towel. So you wanna make sure that you get them, they don't need to be perfectly dry, but as dry as possible. To my mixing bowl, I'm gonna add about a 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese. We are gonna use some for topping and at the bottom of the crust. So I do wanna make sure that I reserve some for that. You also need approximately a 1/2 cup of mayo. So whatever your favorite mayo is, you guys know what ours is, add that to this right here. And I'm not measuring, this is, you know, ish. Okay, it's just a little preliminary stir here. Now I'm gonna add in some feta cheese. You want about 6 ounces of feta cheese. I brought mine from home. I'm gonna mix all of that in. I do think it needs a touch more mayo, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that. I did add a little bit of salt to the sauteing garlic, but I am gonna add a touch of salt here too, maybe a half teaspoon or so. Okay, so I think we have all of our ingredients ready to go now. Okay, I've got my half-baked pie crust here. Still a little warm. All right, so we are going to take some of our mozzarella cheese and I'm gonna put that at the bottom. And you do not have to mix all this together either. You can do this in layers if that's something that you would prefer. I just feel like I'm just mixing it all together, trying to keep this as easy as possible. You wanna have a good amount of tomatoes because, I mean, it's a tomato pie. Now I'm gonna add some of our mixture to the top and just do my very best to spread it around. This is why the layering might be a little easier, but you're gonna get the same taste, so that's a good thing. Now I'm gonna add another layer of tomatoes and the mixture that we made. Last bit of this, just fill in anywhere that we need to. Now I'm gonna take the rest of my mozzarella cheese, which is not very much, and we're just gonna top we're gonna use the rest of it and just top this. Probably could have been more conservative with the mozzarella cheese on a recipe that I made yesterday, and we would have more. Okay, now I'm gonna spray the bottom of my foil so it doesn't stick. Cover this with your foil. I'm gonna let this bake for about 20 minutes with the foil on. Take the foil off and then let it bake for an additional 10 to 15, just judging on the color. I want a nice color on the top, adding some brown because of those cheeses. All right, here is that tomato pie. It looks so delicious. I am gonna tell you though, my mom actually made this the other day. She did hers in a layer format and hers looked way better. So don't try and reinvent the wheel. You don't need to mix all the ingredients together. Just do it layered and it's obviously gonna have the same flavors, but it's gonna look pretty. I did love how this still cut into that perfect piece. As you can see here, you love when you can lift up a piece like that and it all stays together. Let's give it a taste. I've gotta get a bite that has all the flavors in there. Guys, this is delicious. You have to make this. You get all of those cheese flavors, you get the hint of tomato and that basil. Everything fits together so well. This just like savory pie. It is absolutely delicious. You need to make this one. I'm serious. To go with dinner tonight, we are going to make this super easy salad. I guess you could call it a salad, maybe not. So this is gonna be really refreshing. All right, you guys, we've got some drained and rinsed chickpeas here. I'm just gonna put them here into this bowl. And I'm also going to drain off these artichoke hearts that I have right here. Now these are quartered, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut them up just a little bit more. This is just a preference thing. You can leave them just like this if you want to. That's completely fine. I always think the easiest thing for this is just doing a rough chop. Okay, we're gonna add some feta cheese. It really only requires about a 1/4 cup. I may go ahead and use, I don't know, this might be a lot. We'll probably use about half of this. Okay, we are going to add some parsley. Usually recipes like this call for about a 1/4 cup. I'm just gonna have a handful-ish, and we're going to just chop it up like you guys know I like to do with my kitchen shears. Now, if you have them, and I do have them, we're gonna taste this and we're gonna see how it is, but I'm thinking sun-dried tomatoes could also be really delicious in this little side. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes. All right, so you need about a half of a lemon. So we're gonna add about a tablespoon. You know, let's go a little bit more. It's a tablespoon and a half. We also need a tablespoon of olive oil. And we're gonna add in some minced garlic. We like to add more usually than recipes call for. So I am going to add, well, let's do a half teaspoon. I'm gonna add a half teaspoon. Now, if you have fresh oregano and thyme, I definitely suggest using those. We do not have any of that right now. So I'm just gonna add a dash of oregano and a dash of thyme, the dried ones. And I like to add a pinch of salt, even though the feta has a bit of like a saltiness to it, just a pinch. Now we are just gonna toss this together, and then I'm gonna let it chill in the refrigerator until we're ready for dinner. So almost all of this can be made with pantry items. Obviously the feta is not a pantry item, but you could even skip the dried, or you could even skip the fresh parsley and use dried so that you can have majority pantry items. I love stuff like this where you just have this stuff already in your pantry, you're looking for maybe a last minute side option, you just throw all this together. I'm making sure that I get a bite that has artichoke and chickpea and feta in it, because we don't want to miss out on all the flavors. It's so good because you get that lemon flavor, you get that artichoke flavor. I love chickpeas personally, and I love feta. All these flavors really work together. It's not sweet at all, it's completely savory. I really like this. This is so perfect to go with dinner tonight. One thing everyone in my family tends to enjoy is sweet potato fries. So we're gonna make up some of those. I personally like to peel my sweet potatoes when we do this, but you don't have to. You can absolutely leave the skin on. All right, I try and cut these into wedges. I'm not usually very good at it though. So, like in thirds first, and then, like I said, not really great at it, but I just try and turn my knife to and fro and hope that we end up with something similar to a wedge. All right, I like to keep the seasoning on this really simple. So I'm just going with this olive oil spray. I'm going to spray them and then kind of shake them a bit so we can spray the other side as well, or kind of at least. My husband's a lot better at that than I am. Okay, spray again. And then you can use whatever kind of seasoning you like. You could make sweet potato fries with some brown sugar and cinnamon, which is really good. Salt and pepper, just plain and simple, is delicious. I'm gonna be using our Auntie Nono's everything seasoning. It's just all in one and it's so easy to do. You really don't need much of this. A little goes a long way. Shake it up a bit. And we will cook these in the air fryer and then shake them up again. Try and get a single layer. I made a little more than will actually fit in a single layer, and that's okay. These are gonna go in the air fryer. Let's do these on like 385. We're gonna start at about 15 minutes, flipping halfway through, but I think we might end up needing a little more time. All right, let's try these sweet potato fries. Grab one from the top that's not quite as hot. So easy to make, so good, so simple. Just that touch of Auntie Nono's seasoning is perfect to add some flavor to these, and that olive oil. You can also toss them in olive oil too, but I love how the air fryer gives them just a little bit of crisp on the outside. For our side dish tonight, we are going to have roasted beets. Don't discount a vegetable just because you haven't tried it, because beets are delicious, okay? They're really good if you roast them. They add gorgeous color to the plate, and we're gonna lose a bag. All right, I like to use these bags to put the like trimmings in, then I can just toss it. You also want to plan that your fingers are gonna be stained a little bit, and whatever cutting board you use is going to be stained for a little bit. There are also golden beets. You can get those instead of red beets, but I do think that the red, it's just that element of color that you guys know I love. If you get it on your shirt, I'm gonna try not to do that. As you can see, you are going to be stained. So I'm just gonna cut these into bite-sized pieces in the same way that I would do if we were roasting potatoes. Now there are a couple of different ways you can go about this, and I'll give you a couple tips. The first thing that you can do is what I'm gonna do. I'm putting them right over here onto a parchment lined baking sheet, and you can spray them with something like an olive oil spray before you season them, or you can put them in a bowl and mix them around with some olive oil. I'm choosing to go the spray route tonight just because the actual meal, the main portion of our meal that we're having tonight, is a little higher in fat. So the spray version of this versus the mixing in olive oil is just gonna be a little lower in fat, so just balancing it out. All right, so like I said, olive oil spray. And then I am using my Auntie Nono's everything seasoning. You guys know how much we love this. This should be no surprise. If you don't have this, salt and pepper is great. If you don't have this and you want it, I always have a link in my description box for 25% off and free shipping. These are gonna roast in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. I love what these roasted beets do to a plate. They just add a really beautiful color. I love them. They're very similar to the texture of a cooked carrot, I would say, as far as texture goes, but they do taste a little more earthy, but I think they're so delicious with just that little bit of olive oil and the Auntie Nono's seasoning. So you're getting a potato feel, but with a different root vegetable. All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed these side dishes. I've got an entire playlist where you've got side dish after side dish after side dish. You are not gonna get bored here. Hope you're having a great week. I'm about to run out of batteries. I have my measurer things handy. Measurer things, wow. I have my measuring spoons handy. Our verse this week comes from Philippians 4:9. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you.